Hi guys, it's Angela here. So in today's video I want to talk about growing up as a teenager, a young woman, and being single in the congregation. Now, I was born into the religion and grew up with my parents and my brothers and sisters as Jehovah's Witnesses. The congregation that I was associated with, I was there for over 20 years and grew up with all the local brothers and sisters. Now, as I got to an age, being a teenager, most teenagers, you know, the hormones start to flow and everything, and you start to find yourself being attracted to the opposite sex. However, in my case, unfortunately, that just wasn't the case for me. I mean, well, let me just rephrase that. In the sense that I looked at the young men in my congregation as my brothers. So I'd known them all my life. And there were quite a few of us who were born in and were associated with the witnesses and the congregation for all our life. So, you know, from being a toddler, being young children, being teenagers, I looked at them purely as my brothers in the congregation. So when I got to that age where I started being interested in boys, and you know what I mean, girls, you know, you start to become interested in boys, the brothers in my congregation just weren't of interest to me, because I was looking at them as being my brothers, and you know, there was just something wrong in looking at these young men who I knew very well. I knew their parents, I knew their brothers and sisters, I knew their families, and I just didn't find them attractive in that way. So growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, we're taught and we're indoctrinated that people outside of the religion, people in the world, in inverted commas, are very worldly people. They're bad people. They worship Satan, the devil. They get involved in drugs, in alcohol, in criminal activity, and they're just not to be trusted. And having been indoctrinated from the moment I was born, that really was something that I took on. So looking at the people outside in the world, people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, was just an absolute no-go for me. So I was now in a situation where I was, you know, getting to the age where I was interested in young men, but the brothers in the congregation were just not of interest, because I was seeing them very much as my brothers and just didn't find them attractive. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were lovely people, they were really nice people, but they were just not somebody I would see myself being romantically attracted to. And then as I got older and being in secondary school, and in America you guys might call it high school, but I went, you know, I was probably about 13, 14, that sort of age, and boys in the local community were becoming interested in me. But because I was a Jehovah's Witness and had this view of them, because I was indoctrinated, it was just a no-go. And I actually went to an all-girls school, and right next door to us was an all-boys school. And what used to happen was the boys used to finish school about 15 minutes before us girls, and what used to happen was the boys used to hang outside and used to, you know, wait for the girls to come out. And this started to happen, and you know, as I got, you know, to that age, a couple of boys took an interest in me, and there was a couple of problems with that, because one, I was exceptionally shy as a young woman growing up. I was really shy, so when boys were interested in me, I didn't know what to do. I used to just shy away from that, and there was a lot of insecurity that was there. But also that was compounded with the fact that they're non-witnesses, really bad people, and I must have absolutely nothing to do with them. Over time, there was a couple of boys that I found myself being attracted to, but again, when I sort of confided in my friend who was also a Jehovah's Witness, that thought was just totally kicked out of me, because it was like, don't even go down there, you could get, you know, into serious trouble, they're not witnesses, etc, etc. So I grew up in this predicament, not being allowed to associate with non-Jehovah's Witness boys, but yet finding none of the brothers in my congregation attracted. So, you know, I got to the age where girls in my class at school were having boyfriends and having relationships, and I didn't have that. So when I then left school, I went straight out into the ministry. In fact, I left school in the May, and we had our convention in the July, and I got baptized, and then I went straight out into full-time pioneer service. So my life was now all about the Jehovah's Witness. I was in that bubble, and it was quite lonely. It was quite lonely because I was at that age where, you know, 16, 17, 18, you know, women, young women my age were having boyfriends, relationships, and that just wasn't on the cards for me. And then I remember one Sunday, a brother came to the congregation and gave a talk, and he sort of expressed that as young people we should be looking for a mate within the congregation, and if there's nobody in our congregation, then surely there's somebody in the local vicinity who is a Jehovah's Witness. And if there's nobody in the local vicinity, then surely there's somebody in the country. And if there's nobody in the country, then there's something wrong with you. And it was kind of the approach that, you know, if you want to mate, then, you know, you should be praying more. You need to develop those qualities of a Christian woman, and sort of develop that submissive quality. Well, whilst I was a very, very shy teenager and young woman, there was very much a no-nonsense approach about me, and I did find it hard, I still do find it hard, to be submissive. So I was at the age where I felt that I should really be starting to look for a mate, and would go to the conventions and the assembly hall. And there were a couple of brothers that I did like, one in particular, but it turned out that and for whatever reasons that relationship didn't happen. So I grew up being quite isolated, and just took the advice that I really need to pray more. I need to be do more in field service. I need to develop that submissive approach. I needed to find out more about the good Christian woman and the qualities that would make a good Christian wife, and I need to develop that quality in me. And to some degree, whilst I was a shy person, I just felt that it was quite inappropriate, because there was the whole element that didn't sit with me, that, you know, women have to be submissive, they have to listen and obey. So this is back in the 90s, and there was no such thing then as the internet or social media. And the only way of meeting brothers was going to different congregations or meeting them at assemblies and conventions. And it just didn't happen for me. So I didn't meet any brothers that I found a romantic connection with. So when I then decided to leave and escape from the Jehovah's Witness cult, that in hindsight was a positive for me, because I didn't then have the pull of a mate or a husband to try and stop me, to try and convince me not to stay. However, when I then left the Jehovah's Witnesses, it then became, relationships then became quite challenging for me. So here I'd escaped from the Jehovah's Witness, I was in my early 20s and I was single. And in hindsight, that was a positive, because I didn't have a mate or a husband to fill my mind with doubt and to try and convince me to stay. So I didn't have that challenge. But what I did find was, because I've been so heavily indoctrinated for all of those years about men in the world, I now find myself, you know, no longer being a Jehovah's Witness, here with all this freedom, but being single, but having this deep mistrust of men. And it took me many years to overcome that. And even when I did meet somebody, I really had to work on me and build up my self-esteem, because for years Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, with their doctrines, it's very much, you have to be submissive, you have to be obedient, and you have to be submissive to men. And my whole self-esteem about who I was as a woman and what I wanted, I had no idea about that. So going out and meeting people, particularly men, was a major challenge for me. I eventually did meet somebody. It took quite a few years, and I met somebody, and this was like towards the latter part of my 20s. But again, even in that relationship, it was such a challenge for me. It was difficult, because I really had to learn to trust, and I had to do a lot of work on me, and to undo a lot of that negative thinking about people who are non-Jehovah's Witnesses and men in particular. And I had to really work on acknowledging and accepting and discerning that not every man is a wife beater, is a woman beater, is a drug addict, is a cheater, is an abuser, is, you know, a thief, is, you know, all these negative and bad things that I'd been conditioned as a Jehovah's Witness to believe about non-Jehovah's Witness men. So I really found that a challenge, and you know, out of that relationship I had my son, which I absolutely love, adore, and I'm so thankful that I have him. But because of my issues with overcoming the indoctrination, I found it really difficult to trust. I found it really difficult to trust and to accept, and in the back of my mind I was thinking, he's going to cheat on me, he's going to be out there gambling, he's going to be, getting drunk, and he's probably using drugs, and all of these really crazy thoughts I had to really work on and overcome. It's been 30 years, over 30 years that I've been out, and I'm single. I'm still single and never married. And I put a lot of that down to the indoctrination, and I'm still deprogramming. And trying to deal with lots of issues that I'd been taught and indoctrinated with, and that is just one of them, and I'm still learning to trust men, and to realise that they're not these evil, wicked, sinister people that Jehovah's Witnesses would have you believe. And in fact, there are more of these, the very people that Jehovah's Witnesses warn you about, these worldly people, in inverted commas, there are more of those inside the congregation than I've actually met being outside of the organisation. So and I'm sure there were lots of women in a similar situation as me who have had those struggles, who are still struggling to deal with breaking free of that mind control and that thinking that all men out there who are non-Jehovah's Witnesses are these terrible people, and they're not. They're just not. It's been a journey. It's been a long journey for me, and I'm still on that journey. It's amazing how much influence Jehovah's Witnesses and their doctrines can still have over people's lives, even after they've left and escaped the religion and the cult. And I'm still dealing with that. I'm still dealing in many aspects of my life. So guys, here's to the future. I'm still working on me. I'm not there yet, but I'm still working on it. And so guys, I just wanted to share that with you. So please leave a comment, and if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell, and keep in touch with me. Anyway guys, have a fantastic day, and I will see you soon.